Empathy with Figs podcast and Who Are You in Love interview series are not to be confused with individual or couples psychotherapy. In this podcast, I provide coaching and content for informational and entertainment purposes only. Listening or watching this podcast cannot replace the specialized training and professional judgment of a mental health care provider. If you are experiencing a medical or psychiatric emergency, please call 911 or reach out to your medical doctor. So, hi, Ben.
Hey, Figs.
So nice of you to come on my show today.
Oh, it's good to be here.
Yeah. Well, so I know we talked a little bit before we hit the record button about what the show is all about. And so you're actually going to be my second ever guest on this Who Are You in Love interview series. And, you know, I really think it's brilliant that you're open, you know, and especially as a guy, right? Because we as guys get a bad rap, I think, for not being willing to talk about our feelings and emotions and not like conversations about love. So the fact that you're even willing to come on and talk to me about this, you know, big undefined question, who is Ben Reebs in love, is pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I've even got some butterflies using those words there.
I know, that's pretty dramatic, right? Like, who is Ben Reebs?
I don't know. I hope to find out today.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, let's start. Yeah. So when you first heard the question, like what does it elicit for you? Even the question, like, who are you of?
It's interesting because the first thing that comes to my mind, Figs, are all the F-ups I've made, or, you know, the mistakes I've made, or where things maybe didn't go the way I wanted them to go, so to speak. And what I learned from those painful moments, I think. It's interesting that the mind or spirit or soul or whatever goes there immediately, or for me anyway.
Yeah, well, look, I really appreciate you just even being able to name that, right? That the first thing that comes up is kind of the painful moments. Like you go, like, if I'm understanding it correctly, you kind of go through a catalog of your past relationships and feel like all that, oh, there's that one, ow, and then.
Yeah, for sure. And it's interesting. It's kind of a marriage of, I mean, I have this image of a trail of wreckage behind me, you know, and being this boat moving, you know, perhaps beneath the moon or something. Right. But then I also have this beautiful sky that's, you know, in the, perhaps. So it's like dark and light.
Right. Well, of course. Well, I think that's where I kind of got excited about this question, who are you in love? Because it does call on the dark and the light, right?
Yeah,
right. It brings up the most painful moments and also the most beautiful moments, the most beautiful connected moments. So let me just, like, you know, if you're cool with it, we might touch on some of the painful moments, but we don't have to.
Sure.
Right? But let's start with the lovely moments. And before we do, let me just say, like, you know, you and I met, like, you know, for the listeners, you know, you and I lived at Esalen at the same time back in 2003, 2004. And you're like an old timer for me. You were probably there like 6 or something before me, right? And I just remember you as being such a shining light of positivity, of creativity, of just outright friendliness and warmth. And you were just such a beautiful person outside and in. And I really kind of was inspired by your energy and your way of being in the world.
Oh, thanks, Figs.
Yeah, well, of course. I just want to be totally honest with you. I just never saw you be grumpy. And I was like, you know, I'd get up there in the morning and go like, really? I got to like cook all this food right now? Are you kidding me? I just never saw you be anything but like, dude, look what I just made with the beets. I just made art, man, from roasting beets.
Yeah, those were the days. Beatnik Ben. Yep.
Yeah, beatnik Ben. Well, so look, anyway, so I'm excited just to kind of feel some of that, and our listeners to get some of that, like just curiosity and positivity and just outright fun that you bring. You're just a really lovely person to be around.
Thanks, Figs. Oh.
Well, it's true. And so, and I am excited, to be honest, is also maybe, see if we can bring out some of that positive part, but also just to hear a little bit of your internal process. Like, I want to like really, you're like happy and positive and fun all the time.
Ooh. Oh my gosh. Right.
Yeah. Not all the time, right? Who's positive and happy all the time, right? Those people scare me.
Yeah. I mean, well, it's amazing perhaps the disparity or incongruity at times of what I'm presenting to the world and perhaps how I feel inside, and whether and what degree, the degree to which I'm aware of that incongruity.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, sometimes there's a difference between what you're feeling on the inside and what you may present as on the outside.
Oh yeah.
Right. Well, we're all doing that to some degree, right?
Right.
No. So let me ask you. So here's the first thing, right? I really wanted the listeners to know just how much I admired you. So I hope you don't mind me embarrassing you. Like,
I feel a little embarrassed, but I feel warm and fuzzy too. Good. It's just so wonderful to hear your voice. You're just such an amazing being. So it's great to be here.
Well, that's very sweet. So here's the thing. So first question I have for you, right, is like, is there a time or a memory that really stands out for you in your life that you felt really loved or in love, or like some moment that's like, that's what love is, that's it, there's an image or a place that captures it for you?
Right. I think that's a great question. I think for me, it's, in a lot of ways, it's very fleeting. And it's interesting because I just see, I know it's sad to say, but I see a lot of failure.
Right.
And I know we've talked about this word, the wound, I mean, there's a lot of talk about the wound and the blessings of the wounds of love. I mean, anyone can go read Hafiz or Rumi or, anything to find out about that. Yeah. I think, it's hard for me to think of a moment where I think I first fell in love, like truly fell in love, when I was about 12 years old.
Yeah.
But most of it took place in my imagination, and I would send this girl letters that would take me hours to compose. And
this is so sweet.
We went to the movies once. We went and saw A Hand That Rocks the Cradle. And we held hands the whole time, and we didn't even kiss. She wished I would have kissed her. That was my big fuck up. Sorry to say,
right.
My big mess up of that particular was not kissing her. And she broke up with me because I didn't kiss her.
Ouch. So first heartbreak.
That was my first heartbreak. I'm 38 years old now, and I feel like for the first time I'm coming into who I really am. And I think maybe I'm a late bloomer. I don't know what that means, but man, I've just messed up along the way a lot.
Yeah.
So,
well, look, again, Ben, I really appreciate you sharing that. And, and it also is painful a little to hear you, I just think about the way you've touched me, and like I've seen you touch other people so positively in your life that in order to get to a place where like there was quote unquote, fuck ups, as you're putting it. And look, you don't need to encourage me as an Irishman to curse, right? So don't worry about that, right? But but I know like there are those moments prior to there even being an opportunity for it to be, effed up.
Right.
That there must have been some moment of feeling connected. Some moment where like, this is it. And it doesn't even have to be with a romantic partner. Like, in my, this article I wrote, and I referenced it in the last interview where I talk about my mom putting after sun lotion on my back and just sitting at the feet of my mom, kind of just lying down and just like totally surrendering to just being cared for and feeling safe. And I always like, it's probably not particularly, exciting idea of love, but that's kind of that's what it means for me, that I'm here with someone, I feel cared for, I feel held, I feel safe in our connection. And it's just an out breath, right? That's it. That's it. So if you're okay, like, look, again, it's brilliant that you're chomping at the bit to get to like all the mistakes I made, right? But it's hard, like, given the way you connect with people, like I've seen it in your eyes. I've seen you make people feel so good. You've made me feel so good in your company. Right? Like, where does that come from? Where did you get that? Who did you see in your life shine like that and be so curious and connect with you, and you saw it mirrored back to you?
Yeah. Oh man, these questions. It's a good one. I mean, I think for me, it would go to my mom. She's, an amazing light in this world. She was born in Japan as a missionary, and she didn't come to America till she was 14 or 15.
Right.
And and she was a Caucasian missionary girl in Tokyo, and her father was an orphan from India. So my grandfather is an orphan from India, an Indian man, native Indian. And anyway, he died very young, died tragically when he was in his 30s. And so I never got to meet him, but I think my mother carried his light forward, and I was the firstborn, so I received all of that. And the word Benjamin means son of my right hand in Hebrew. So I was kind of the firstborn, and I received that love, that light from an amazing woman, my mother.
Beautiful. And so just slow down here just a sec, right?
Okay.
So
all right.
Is there, and I totally fine as there's not, and it doesn't have to be the defining image or moment.
Right.
But when you think about this right now, what comes to mind? Some moment of connecting with your mother where you feel like you saw this lie transmitted to you, where you recognized it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because there isn't really a particular moment, and I'm embarrassed to say that because I want there to be.
Right.
I think just all that acknowledgement she gave me through the years. Now, I was homeschooled in the woods without electricity from the age of 7 to 20. So I'm, whatever, backwoods homeschooled kid from Pacific Northwest. But my mother was a big part of my life because I didn't have as much community, perhaps, as some kids who went to regular school. I did have friends, and I wasn't a weird kid. But as far as a moment goes, there isn't really a particular one. I mean, oh man.
Well, let me ask you this. When you feel most connected to someone, what does it feel like inside? When you feel whatever that means to be like, okay, we are really connected to each other. This feels good. There's no problems. I could stay in this place forever. What's it like for you, if you were to describe that experience?
Well, that separateness that I feel melts away, and I realize that we are one,
Mm.
and time just completely stands still, and I feel inspired. I feel blissful,
Oh.
and I feel an expansiveness. It's like the possibilities are opening.
Mhm.
It's like when you're sitting around a campfire on the coast, and maybe you're drinking whiskey, or you're drinking something
Yeah.
nice, a glass of wine, or
Yeah.
and maybe there's somebody playing music. I always have this image of a gypsy playing music and just
Yeah.
pouring their soul out.
Right.
And perhaps there's two gypsies, and that's how I
Yeah.
feel.
Right.
And there's this recognition of our humanness, and
Right.
I think that's it. It's hard to put into words.
No, that's beautiful. I love that. And I love what you said. It's just this like, the separation between us, it just seems like it's disappeared. Like we feel like we're one and we're just here and enjoying like sensual pleasures like, wine or whiskey and song. And we're sitting on the beach, right? We can feel the sand and the ocean waves. And right. Like it's a very rich image, right? Yeah.
It is.
It's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. So this I know, like, so did, to have such a access to, a longing for oneness, that level of connection with someone where you're just in the moment with them, is lovely to hear. And I know you're a musician and, you're an awesome singer-songwriter. Are you still doing singer-songwriter stuff?
I am. Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
Great. Awesome. Great. So those moments where it's not like that. So when you've been in a relationship
Right.
and that longed for, we're one and I'm feeling the inspiration of our connection and there's nowhere else we need to be other than this on this beach, like two gypsies with our guitars and singing together with the ocean waves in the background, giving the chorus or whatever it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's that like for you in those moments where you're really trying to connect with someone or you're in a relationship and those magical moments are not present?
Yeah, I think that's the most painful part. And
Yeah.
um, I don't have very much of an ability to turn away from that. I don't know where that came from. Perhaps it's just cultivating that presence and facing it. Of course, I see it. I see the moments I do turn away.
Okay, so slow down just for a sec, just to make
Okay,
sure I
you
understand what
got
you
it.
mean, right? When you say from that, I'm not very good at not turning away from that. What's that?
Right. So let's say that I'm not connecting to this person that I'm with,
Yeah.
in relationship with,
Yeah.
and that's a fact. We can both feel it. We
Right.
both know it on some deep
Yeah.
level. And I'm in front of that. It's like a black sky.
Mm.
That's the rain clouds are gathering, the storm
Right.
is gathering, and there's this black sky. And there's a part of me that wishes, it was a crystal clear blue sky.
Sure.
And that's actually where the suffering comes from, that the resistance to what is not, or
Totally.
So
Well,
however, even
just
just
slow
facing
down.
that sky. Yeah.
Yeah. So just
Okay.
again, just
All right.
because, this is one of the problems with me, like where I grew up, like you grew up in the
Yeah.
woods, right? Running around
Right.
with, bow and arrows and homeschooled and like, in the Pacific Northwest. You have to remember, I grew up just eating potatoes in Ireland. So I'm a little slow.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm a little slow. So let me just so if I get it right, there's this really clear image of what connection
Mm-hmm.
means, like in terms of this oneness I feel, and it's inspiring.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it's not here, when I'm not feeling it in my relationship, it can feel like there's this dark black sky that I'm under, and I know it and the other person knows it, and I'm just living in that gap between like what I long for and the reality of like where our relationship is right now. And that's that painful place for you.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And then it brings up that question of how can I be present to this black sky?
Right.
How can I fix it? Or how can
Yeah.
I just be with it? And
Totally.
what should I run away? Should I walk away? Should I just cut things off? Or should
Yeah.
we try to weather this storm?
Right. Well, so so that's interesting. You bring like, so would you say like, it's interesting you say like, should I run away? Should I cut things off, or should I weather the storm?
Right.
Like, is that what you would tend, let's say when relationships, have failed, and again, you don't have to answer any of these questions, right?
Sure.
Like, but when relationships have failed, would you say that's kind of one of the things that happens, that you're like, start to question, should I even try, or like run away, or?
Right. Yeah. I mean, obviously there's so many degrees to this,
Yeah.
um, and of course, being in relationship, the beauty is going through those storms. I mean,
Totally.
and that's one of the most beautiful parts.
Yeah.
And so I think um, it's after I've maybe tried, let's say it's been 3 or 4 years, and
Yeah.
that same storm keeps coming up again and again.
Right.
And there's just seems to be some place where we never sit down at the fire and play those guitars.
Right. Yeah. So
And we've tried every fix,
right.
And that's because, I mean, I've been in a lot of long relationships. I've been in one for 5 years, one for 9 years, one for 3 years, one for 2 years. I'm kind of a, serial monogamist, which I hate that word.
Right.
But I'm certainly not the type who runs away.
Yeah. No, well, obviously, like it's a lot of really long-term committed relationships of really working to make it work, and like going into those stormy places and trying to find a way back to each other. Back to
that's a good way to put it.
Yeah. So, but let me ask, like, just because I have this belief that everybody, no matter how brilliant and enlightened they are in matters of love, have moments when they're disconnected, that they can have kind of like go-to judgments of their partner. Like, I'm not saying this isn't the like overall narrative of who your partner is, but in a moment when you feel most disconnected, do you have a sense of what one or more of your kind of go-to judgments are of your partner, that you're, the person you're in a relationship with?
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with that. Are you asking what those can be, or are you you're just making that comment?
Oh no, like what would yours be? Like what would be your
right? Well, they're different with every person, right? And usually, I mean, I think it was Goethe who said we can only see or recognize something that, at least in some degree, is inside of ourselves.
Right.
And so usually those go-to judgments or have just as much, if not more, to do about me and my process.
Absolutely.
And where am I failing myself?
Yeah.
In my relationship to myself.
Right. So you really take a lot on yourself. Like, I must be failing if this isn't working out. Right.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Maybe I can just share one recent failure, and I can just encapsulate it, because I think I know a lot of my friends can relate to it. But I was with somebody for, we were together for maybe 3 months, and we went traveling overseas, and we took some beautiful pictures together, and she decided to post one of our pictures together on Facebook. And tag me and tag her, and we actually didn't have any pictures on Facebook yet, because we just hadn't gone there yet. And I just hadn't been quite ready for that yet. I'd kind of come out of a really serious relationship before meeting her, and well, anyway, I told her, I said, I'm just not ready. Can you please take down this picture, this beautiful picture you've posted of us? Um, and so she did, but she just cried,
Mm.
and things were never the same ever again
Mm.
between us.
Wow.
And now I see that I really let her down, and I let myself down in that moment, because
Yeah.
I was proud of her, and proud of being with her, but I didn't show her that.
Right.
Um, and I mean, who knows what really happens inside of another, because I can't say, but
Sure.
I felt like her heart kind of broke a little bit,
Right.
and things were never the same.
Right.
And uh, so I don't know why I bring that up, other
Well,
than to
no, I
say,
mean, that's a really painful moment. And again, look, I so
yeah,
appreciate your willingness to take responsibility and look at it from, the other person's perspective and how it could have landed. That when I told them to take down the photo, they could have felt really not like you weren't proud of them, or that you weren't. And
yeah,
this is my word. You can correct me, please, if I'm wrong.
sure,
They could have felt not fully chosen,
yes,
and that could really have hurt, right? But I do
yeah,
want to, if I could stop you just for a
yeah,
second, right? But at the
hmm
same time, so yeah, it's brilliant that you understand the impact you had on this person, right? And that you're
yeah,
actually able to take some responsibility then and go like, oh yeah, maybe like, that's how they felt. They could have felt not chosen. They could have been heartbroken, right? And feel bad about it. But on the other side though, it's not like what you're describing though, it's not like you are being malicious, right? It was actually
right,
like, my heart wasn't in a place. If I speak as you, I'm just trying to feel into it, and you can
yeah,
correct me if I'm wrong, right? My heart is not in a place right now that I can be out in the world like that. And so I'm just feeling it's a little overwhelming to see the picture online. Like I just need it to come down right now. And that's
right,
like an understandable, like, there's not, even though that's the impact it had,
yeah.
it certainly makes sense to me that you could have felt that way, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I wasn't aware of it. And I learned a
When
lot from that.
when you say you weren't aware of it, again,
Yeah.
what's the it? I wasn't aware of.
Yeah, I guess I wasn't aware, of that boundary until it happened. And there's a part of me that regrets that, because it hurt her so badly. And
I'm sorry,
um,
again, when you say that
yeah,
boundary, what's the
yeah.
what boundary? Like, if you were to put words
Yeah,
to.
right. The boundary, it was like we were crossing a new boundary by something as silly as posting a photo with our tagged
Right,
names, and for all of our friends and family to see. And I wasn't ready to cross that boundary, and I
totally.
didn't know it. And
Right.
um,
And it created an injury between the two of you.
yeah,
Right.
that was irreversible. Now, of
Oh,
course,
that's
one
so
could
painful.
say, yeah, I mean, maybe it was bound to happen in some way. If it wasn't that, it was going to be
Right.
another thing. But it's these moments, Figs, that are recorded in my soul or in
Mm.
my being, and I'll always remember them. And I really honor her,
Yeah.
for giving me that gift. And
Right. Right.
I'm one with her pain in some way. In that moment, that experience.
Totally.
I don't know if that makes sense,
No, it
but
totally does.
I,
But let
okay,
me see, just again, just the way I frame it, if I'm getting what you're saying,
yeah.
is you inside, like deep inside you, were not feeling fully available. You'd still had recovering from a past long-term relationship. And so when you saw the picture online, it was a little overwhelming. You asked her to take it down. That left her in a place where she didn't feel chosen. It was heartbreaking. She was crying. And and then it felt like you guys were not able to repair that rupture to your emotional connection, that sense of not being chosen, and you like had hurt her feelings, just was never able to get better.
Yeah, I think we were together another year or so, but it
Yeah.
never was the same. And I can
Right.
trace it back to that moment, Figs. It's amazing.
Yeah. Well,
anyway.
Yeah, no, look, it makes perfect sense. I mean, if you, so here's the way I often think of it is like, relationships have what's called a honeymoon period where, you know, we get together and we see something in a partner that it goes like, oh, wow, with this one, the way they're looking at me, right? I'm going to feel totally chosen and I'm never going to have to feel my abandoned parts because they are just looking at me like I'm like awesome. And then, of course, the other person could be seeing in their partner's eyes, wow, they're really looking at me like I'm never going to be a failure. They look like I am so enough for them. And that lasts for whether for some people it's a week, for other people it's a year or 2 years. And then lo and behold, something's going to happen. Something's going to happen, whether it's a picture on Facebook where actually we signed an invisible contract with each other that neither of us actually could ever have carried out. There is no way that our relationship could ever have managed to make sure I didn't feel my unchosen parts and be in the pain of feeling abandoned. And if I had the Ben in me, there's no way this relationship was going to succeed in making sure I didn't touch my I'm a failure in love parts. And here we are at the first time it comes up and we both got really devastated and we couldn't make it better, right? Ouch. Yeah. It's so tragic. It's so painful.
It is. It's so painful. Yeah. I think it's one of the reasons a lot of people choose not to be in relationship for a while, or I should say that I choose maybe at times not to be in relationship for a while, because it's bound to happen, as you say, in a way.
It is bound to happen. I mean, look, again, from this attachment, saturated perspective that I see love and relationship and that I help people, as a couples therapist, it is bound to happen, right? And I'm always, it does really hurt when there wasn't a possibility to repair and see things from a more, systemic view where both of us actually make sense. And like, of course, you'd be hurting and not feeling chosen. And of course, it must be devastating to feel like you're failing to make your partner happy, that they're like crying and they're never able to recover from not feeling chosen when really you're just doing the best you could.
Right.
It's so tragic. Yeah. One of my favorite things lately that I keep saying to myself is no one said it would be easy to be someone's primary attachment figure. No one said, right? Like, like being someone's, you're the one that I need more than anything else to choose me, or you're the one I need to know that I'm not failing, right? Being on the other end of that quote unquote projection, it's a normal thing, it's not a bad thing, right? I know people think projection is some negative thing, but being the person on the like receiving end of that, you're that person that needs to choose me, or you're that person that needs to not see me as a failure. Like there's a lot of responsibility.
Right? It is, and it's also so hot. I
love that. It is hot. Say more about that when you say it's hot.
Well, it's interesting because I'm in a pretty new relationship right now, and
congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. I guess what I'm this is definitely feels pretty vulnerable for me, this area that we're in right now. But to be chosen and to do it spontaneously, to do it involuntarily, to do it where for both partners to do it without talking to each other really about it, without any deal that takes place, is so hot. And
absolutely,
it's what I live for. It's just what I live for.
Yeah, well, look, it is. It's the best, right? Where you meet that other person, you're like, it feels so good. I'm in the oneness. We are the two gypsies on the beach, right? It's amazing. It's amazing. You know, it really is. And I'm so happy for you that you're on that beach, right? Or like, you know, you're in that, like, it is hot, we're connected, it's so good. And tell me, so like, it makes sense, but I'd love to hear your words. Like, what makes that vulnerable to share?
Yeah, I think there's that fear of it, of it going
Yeah.
away, of it disappearing.
Right.
It's like that Leonard Cohen song about love itself was gone.
Ouch. That's
And
pretty bleak. Yeah.
I mean, he wrote it for his guru who
Yeah.
died,
Right.
but we've all had that, or at least I know I've had those moments where
Right.
love is no longer between me and somebody,
Right.
and it's gone and it's transformed, and there's a loss, there's a
There
grieving,
really
and
is.
so I think, but maybe more the vulnerability that I'm speaking to is, it's so easy to go into the negative about love for me,
Yeah.
I mean, the first thing you asked was, you asked a question about love, and I
Right.
recall negative things where I've
Right.
messed
You're
up.
failing.
And
Right.
yeah, I think there's more vulnerability for me personally. I don't know why. It's probably not like this for other people. For some people, I'm not
Yeah.
sure, but there's more vulnerability in celebrating love
Right.
for me than in um, being in the pain of it. I mean, I'm a songwriter. You're right. Every
Yeah.
songwriter's best songs come when their heart's broken. And I can
Yeah.
say that it's generally true, Figs. It's true.
Right.
Even though I wish it wasn't so.
Right.
At least it's proven to be true in my 38 years on this planet.
Yeah.
Um,
Hey, come
so
here.
anyway,
No, that's really important. I think that's an important point that can be really missed, is that vulnerability can, of course, everybody understands the vulnerability. I shouldn't say everyone, but most people understand the vulnerability of like being in loss or being in grief or being in disconnection from self or other. But letting oneself be in aliveness, letting oneself be fully in connection and being
right.
present and not having an eye on the failures of the past or the potential failures of the future, like, and just being in it and just like, woohoo, this is awesome, and I'm going to celebrate this moment. That's quite a vulnerable thing, right? Like, that's a vulnerable thing, right? We're
Oh,
actually
jeez. Yeah.
right. So I love that you're
Wow.
speaking to that. It is not that easy to let oneself be fully in our aliveness and actually not, and let our guards down and be vulnerable, because, without getting into like, teaching, right? Like shame, right? Shame really biologically, it's just this momentary message that you have to stop paying attention to what you're paying attention to. And so when we're like fully in this place of like, I'm just really celebrating love, we are leaving ourselves open to it being interrupted suddenly, right? By right, the failure is about to happen, or here I have a memory of how it failed in the past. And so it's a really courageous path to walk, to actually allow yourself to be in that place of celebration and not let it be interrupted by your fear of repeating what has gone before.
Right. That's such a good way to put it.
So let me say this to you, right? Like, so here's the thing, from an attachment perspective, right? So I have an opinion, right? So I believe the rubber meets the road. If you really want to make a long-term relationship work, we have to be able to get through the disconnected place, the storms.
Yeah.
We got to be able to get through the storms, no matter how one I feel. And look, when I met Teale, my wife, like, we met at Esalen. We met at the lodge in Esalen, right?
Oh, wow.
And like, the hot tubs and like over the ocean. And it was literally love and lost at first sight. And like, it was amazing, right? It was just like,
yeah.
And then,
Right.
and every time we hung out in the first months, was just like, I couldn't get over how good it was.
Right.
We're in the honeymoon period. But eventually the storm's going to hit. The storm's going to hit because I have places inside me that don't feel that lovable. And I really try and protect those parts inside me. And so does my wife. Teale has those places inside her that don't feel that lovable. And if it looks like I'm not there in the ways that make her feel loved and cared for, she's going to hurt, she's going to get scared, and she's going to react in some way. And the way she reacts is going to hurt me. And then I'm going to get scared and I'm going to react in some way. And then we're both going to be in the place where the sky has turned dark. We're no longer on the beach. The gypsies aren't playing. Right? How we can get through that storm is the most important thing. How do we find our way back to each other?
Yeah.
Right. So this is this, path of your ability to like feel and own your failures is awesome, right? It's awesome, right? How do you navigate those places where you're not in the connected place with your partner in the past, right? Because it sounds like you guys are right now. You haven't hit that place yet, or maybe you never.
We haven't. Yeah. It's interesting with my new partner, girlfriend.
Yeah.
She recently said to me, she said, I look forward to the times when there is a storm.
Right.
I look forward to the times when we aren't connecting and to where we need to work through things.
Yes.
She's like, I can't wait for that with you. And I have never in my life had a woman tell me that. I'm not, by saying that, it just, there's so many new things to experience. So I'm certainly not degrading my past relationships.
No, I didn't
when I say
like
that
at all, Ben. No,
yeah,
absolutely.
But wow, what profound love. And oh my gosh. And I guess that brings up the question, because right now I actually do in some way look forward to it, because I wouldn't be alive if that storm didn't come. And to have somebody else on the other end saying, I look forward to that with you.
Yes.
I think that's what I need. That's what I need, Figs, to get through it, is to have somebody else say, hey, when we get there, we're going to do this. And I've chosen you. Yes. And baby, this is going to be amazing, even when it's not.
Even when it's not. Yeah, we're in this together. There will be moments of like where the sky is dark, but I'm not going away. I'm gonna stay here with you through these black skies and storms. And well,
it's interesting too, because that's where things get interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That like it's in that being with. I mean, it's like this symbol of, instead of this, which like that, here's the storm that's black, right, here's the blue sky that I want.
Yes,
they're at odds.
Yeah.
Well, if I can just say, okay, there's a black sky and I'm kind of holding hands with it, things get really interesting.
Right. Well, say more when you say they get interesting. Like, tell me.
Yeah, like my partner gets really interesting in her dark places, in her, where she's more human, where she's more fucked up, or where I'm more fucked up. I'm sorry to use that word.
No,
I don't mean that. You know what I mean?
Well,
where she's hurt, where she's wounded.
Vulnerability. Yeah,
exactly.
Right.
That's where, for me, that's where life gets really interesting, and I can say that I'll go to the grave feeling this way.
Yeah,
and that's just. I know it may sound like a platitude in some way, but, the Hollywood, beautiful, perfect, everything doesn't interest me that much.
Right.
It's boring.
Yeah.
Being on Friends is boring.
Being on the show.
Or what I mean is being on the show, even the show Friends is awesome. It's hilarious.
Yes.
What I'm trying to say is that having that perfect everything,
totally.
Doesn't interest me that much.
Yeah, look, where we get to, if I'm getting it, it's like there's an opportunity in the storms to really see all of my love, and for them to see all of me, right? The fucked up parts, the vulnerable parts inside of us, and to give them a chance to get to know each other and find a way that they can actually, I mean, you know, they can, like you say, it gets interesting when they're the parts of us that are now going to have to connect with each other. It's not just we're the two guitar playing gypsies on the beach that connect with each other. Right now it's our fucked up parts that have to find a way to be able to love each other and connect with each other, right? And stay in that storm with each other.
Yeah, and I think I have to say I don't think I really know how to do that, you know. Right. It's an unknown. It's
right. When you say you don't know how to do that, like, but you've done it in the past.
Yeah.
Right, you must have done it over and over again to be in a relationship that lasted 9 years and 4 years, and like you've weathered a whole bunch of storms and come out the other side feeling more connected after them. Right?
Yeah, I feel so much gratitude for those relationships and what I've learned.
Right, but you must have done it. Like, you have in your body the experience of connected, disconnected, this is terrible, like, you know, we're in the storm, and then somehow you've repaired them. I know your mind can grab the times that you didn't repair them and you're hard on yourself about it, which I didn't realize you can be so hard on yourself. It makes me sad to hear that part, but you know, and I appreciate your willingness, though, to be, you know, in like self-inquiry, but you actually do know, you have experiences of going from connected, disconnected, and finding your way back to connected with someone. You've done it.
I do, and I think maybe a better way of putting it when I say I don't know is that what I've learned is that the moment I think I know, how you know how it's going to be, or how to untie this Gordian knot of you know, and how this person reacts, and the moment I think I have it all figured out is the moment I stop listening, and maybe I turn away for a moment from what's in front of me. Absolutely. Which is this storm and these wounds that are being shared in this sacred dance of love or relationship. And
that's beautiful.
It's walking that path of the unknown, you know, going into that dark forest that no one else has gone, and holding hands, doing it with the partner, and going into those scary places together and not knowing where it's going to go, but trusting and having a faith, or having just having a faith in each other, for lack of a better word.
You know, I'm really excited to hear you describe it that way, because, you know, one of the things I always say is my competency is the enemy to intimacy. And for me, especially, right, because here I am, like, quote unquote,
I love
relationship expert. Come here. If I'm in a fight with my wife, Figs, the relationship expert, has no business being in the conversation, right? Because everything Mr. Figs that knows how to make things better he's gonna make life a lot harder for himself, right? But me, the part of me that's wounded and doesn't know what to do and just feels the pain of disconnection and can tolerate sitting in it and not jump up to Mr. Know-It-All, like, that's when I have a chance to get back connected to my wife. So I just love that you described that. I actually find like hugely kind of validating, because I'm really, you know, I'm always like, here, come here, stop trying to get to places of competency. Like, just be in the raw vulnerability and you don't know what to do, and trust if you can sit in that place with another human being, defining each other again will look after itself.
Did you say defining or
Oh,
finding? Finding.
the
Finding each other
finding
again will
each other
look
again.
after itself. Is that what?
Yes, if you can
Wow.
sit in the pain and the sadness of being disconnected from each other without trying too hard to make it go away.
Yeah, and that trying too hard, that's where the real pain comes in
Right.
for me, that, trying to make things different, wishing the storm wasn't here.
Right.
That's where most of the suffering comes from. The storm itself, it's not a big deal getting a
Right.
little bit wet, maybe a little bit cold.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
No, it's
it's
great. Like, because the storm means that the most vulnerable parts of who you are in the room. And guess what it means if they're
oh,
in the room? There's a chance to love them up.
I like that.
Right. There's a chance, like the rest of the time, right? Like, the rest of the time when I'm not in a fight with my wife, I'm like Mr. Funny Figs, Mr. Oh, I know lots of information Figs. But like, that those parts of me don't actually need an awful lot of love. But the time when I'm
Mm.
disconnected from my wife and I'm like at risk of being, angry or blaming, and I'm actually feeling sad and powerless or ashamed inside, like, that's the part of me that needs love. And the only time he shows up is when we're in a storm. The only time there's a chance to
Wow.
give him some love is in the middle of a storm. So yeah. So
Wow.
anyway, I'm really excited to hear you talk about that, like going to those places, and it's great to get wet and like just try and be in that not knowing what's going to happen next with each other. Absolutely.
Yeah, because it's so easy to want to control the storm, and you can't. It's messy.
Right.
It's messy, and uh, it's uh, it's got something to teach me.
Absolutely.
It's
Yeah.
part of this sacred dance of love or relationship, and it's a teacher for me. It's where I learn shit.
Yes, absolutely. It's where, new information can come in when I'm in that place of openly sitting in the pain or the sadness or the storm. Well, that's really awesome, Ben. I love the way you frame it and think about love and relationship, can see and be curious about your own journey with love, and where maybe you wish you could have done things differently. I mean, if you were my client, I would be trying to help you and not be so hard on yourself. But, just to be honest. But yeah, and just your willingness, to go to the vulnerable places and to tolerate it and to sit in it and not give up, to try and find your way back to oneness with that person that you love and want to be chosen by and want to be enough with, right? It's really beautiful.
Yeah, it's interesting, Figs. I mean, I have a background in a little linguistics, but
Yeah.
just you look at the word for bread in French. It's
Yeah.
it's spelled pain, Pain,
Right.
and you think about breaking bread, right?
Yeah.
And Joseph Campbell would always say, "Find where your pain is, because that's where your life is."
Right.
And we have the word companion, and which in French, compagnon, it means to share pain with your
Right.
fellow human being, to share life, to break the bread, and that's where we get the campagna, which is the field.
Right.
And it's where champagne comes from. And
Wow.
anyway, if you just look at the
Yeah.
linguistics of the word pain
Yeah.
and bread, and anyway, it's
Yeah.
just interesting.
No, it's
And that's what this is. I mean, I don't mean to bring religious metaphors into this conversation, but
no.
just relationship, this storm, it's about breaking the bread and drinking the blood of,
Yeah.
of this thing
Yeah.
called relationship. And
Again, I love it. I love it.
you like it?
I'll tell you what comes up for me as you say that.
Okay.
Look, this thing that I do, like, in my office, helping couples understand why they're getting disconnected with each other, move towards the storm, the vulnerable place, and sit there so that they can find each other and love the most vulnerable parts of each other. That's the breaking of bread. right? In your metaphor, that's it. It's like we're like truly being each other's companions, right? But
Right.
it sucks that it like for me that it has to happen inside the container of psychotherapy.
Right.
Like, come on. Like, this is the most human thing ever. Like, talking to someone about their internal process. I talk to someone about their internal process. I'm doing psychotherapy. That's bullshit. Why in the name of God can two human beings talk to each other about their internal process? Why it shouldn't have to be inside a medical model that two people get guidance on their internal emotional process and can be helped to break bread together, to be each other's companions, and to drink that champagne, right? Like
Right.
so that's what, like, I love what you're saying. Like, come on, there's no need for this kind of holding people and guiding people to go to these deeply emotionally enriching experiences, that it has to be like in this, like, that it's a sickness. You only get to do it, you reach out to someone who's some kind of part of the medical model. It drives me crazy. But hey, that's the way it is.
So is that the kind of thing you're creating with empathy, to create that kind of space?
Well, I'm trying to broaden, for sure. I am definitely trying to find a way to get this wisdom that you and I are talking about, that it's normal to hurt and love. And in fact, it's essential, and we have to share it with each other. We have to break that bread together.
Yeah.
Right? I'm trying to get that out to more people, and not just people that are going to reach out to psychotherapy, that live in somewhere like New York or San Francisco, or have the money, or somehow are blessed not to feel stigma at reaching out to a psychotherapist. There's no reason why they should be limited by location or money or stigma to have access to what is our birthright. To your, to your point, this is like the essence of who we are, that we hurt in love, and people need help and guidance. And so, yeah, empathy.com is my attempt to get that out there to everybody, not just people that, are willing to access psychotherapy. So anyway, so come here. Really awesome talking to you,
It's been great.
Yeah, well, look, one of the things that I'm hoping could be somewhat healing too is, maybe not, but like just two guys talking about love and relationship, right?
I didn't think I would do this with you or ever do this on a podcast. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. I'm really hoping that, like, one of the things I'm constantly blown away by, and it's been really healing for me, is when I see couples and men in my office. I can believe the story myself about men don't have access to their feelings, their emotional life is dimmed or absent. But when I'm constantly blown away that men, give them a chance, give them some space to feel themselves, give them a little bit of room and a little help guiding them into their internal process. Men are pretty friggin' awesome emotionally. They have a lot of depth, like in general, right? So I just think men have gotten like a bad rap. They give themselves a bad rap. They just probably need a little bit more room. It's a little bit harder for them to touch and feel their emotional parts, but they're there. They are there. Right. So you just being willing to come on and talk about your failures and your vulnerability, and how vulnerable it is to be in, and talk about the connected moments, and how much love means to you, how much you love the storm and want to go to those places and tolerate it and find your way back to connection with your love. It's so beautiful. And thank you. It's really meaningful to share, I think, especially as a man, that part of you.
It's been so awesome to share this with you, Figs. It's like just to have this conversation. It's just awesome.
Well, you rock. Keep on healing people, right? You're like, as a naturopathic doctor, right? And
That's right.
Yes. So do you want to tell me a little bit before we go? Like, tell me a little bit about you and how you work as a healer in the world.
Yeah, so I'm a naturopathic doctor, and basically I'm helping my patients to restore normal structure and function in their bodies,
Mm.
and I help them to awaken the innate healing mechanism that we all have in our bodies.
Mm.
It's known as the vital force, or the V's
Yeah.
or vis, so the body's always trying to restore order. I mean, you cut your arm or your hand or something, you
Yes.
watch it heal before your own eyes without doing anything. Well, why can't we see that with diabetes? Why can't we see that with rheumatoid arthritis,
Right.
or even depression or anxiety? Why can't we
Right.
see? And it kind of plays into the things we've been talking about today, Figs, of sort of retraining our approach to these things. Instead of suppressing them, taking an anti-inflammatory for inflammation,
Right.
why not be interested in the inflammation? What caused the inflammation?
Right.
What caused the storm? And then how can we remove the things that are causing it? And then how can we awaken the healing force to remove the inflammation forever?
Right.
So
I love it. That's great.
So,
and I do see the parallels, right? Very much so. What we're talking about is, how do we, instead of trying to get rid of storms, how do we be curious about it, tolerate standing in the middle of it, and letting it complete itself? And right, like, it's
I couldn't say it better myself.
That's beautiful. No, hey, who knew? We're doing very similar work. I didn't even, really, right? I just
Oh yeah,
on the emotional stuff. And you're doing the whole body. I love it. Wow, the whole organism. That's brilliant. So come here. Thank you so much. Is there anything else you feel before you go, right? Or we go, is there anything else that feels really important, that feels left out, that, like, because again, the name of the show is going to be, Ben Reebs in Love. Like, is there anything that feels important that we haven't touched upon? Like, that, who is Ben Reebs in love?
I don't think there's really anything. I think it's powerful to see, when I see men expressing their vulnerability on social media and in film, in their books, in person. I have to say, it inspires me, and so we need more. We need more of that. And so, thank you for the invitation to experiment and to try this.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Ben. It's really an honor that you would come on and trust me to talk about such a vulnerable topic. So I really feel honored that you came on the show.
You're awesome, Figs.
Thank you. You too.